Hello, welcome to Intro to Acrylic Painting. This is Lorena, the Art Smart Lady, and I am looking forward to sharing a little bit about acrylic painting with you. These are some examples of some acrylic paintings I've done over the years, and some of them are very recent. You're going to get to see that later. And well, these are all mostly recent actually. But it is a very versatile material. These all coming up will be for, you will get to see a demo of each of these. The first one was not an actual painting, but it's a demo for mixing paint. I got carried away and it ended up being a cool little abstract painting. So what you're going to see first is I'm going to take, your typical colors like red and yellow, or orange and yellow and blue, or green and red and blue, or purple, and then I just started to add a little bit of other colors to each one. And if you want to, you could always just slow this down and see what I'm doing to get an idea of what to expect. When you also take an exploratory direction in mixing paints, and you need to just have fun with it, because there's no real rules except that you need to just make sure that your brush is a little bit wet, not too wet because then you'll get drippy mess, but so that it's smooth, because when it's nice and fluent, it makes it easier to mix your colors. And if you notice, I'm not actually washing my brush in between grabbing paint, and I usually grab the paint from one little side or edge of the paint, as opposed to going straight to the center. That way I keep my paint for a longer period of time. And you're gonna see that throughout in the demos coming up, that I actually show how I painted each thing. So that's what became of the abstract or the mixing paint abstract painting ended up being. So this next one is the self-portrait, and I decided I wanted to do a background first, and it was easy just to do blue because it's my favorite. I like to sketch first in charcoal if I can, and I do a first layer with the paint. There's some blue highlights just because I wanted it to bring connection with the background a little bit. And also in real life, a lot of times the light reflected on your subject is from the background. Now it's not the same exact blue, but it works really well. And so that's pretty much, and if you slow this down, you can always see how I'm mixing the colors along the way. I wanted to show a little bit of that. This next one is an abstract painting. I've called it Sapphire Part 1. And I just made sure that whatever color I chose, that I made sure I put it in different places around the paintings, so that you have some kind of a balance. It's not exactly the same on each side or each area, but I just wanted some kind of dialogue back and forth with the different colors. And I have not really washed my paintbrush at all. I'm simply just adding more colors to it, unless of course I'm starting with a brand new color, like I did with the yellow. I think I did actually get a different brush for that one, or I should say golden, because that's kind of the idea. Most of the colors in this one are cool colors, and except for that golden color is the warm color that makes the cool even come out more cooler. And this next one is the red cardinal, and I started off also with the background. This ended up being a very interesting, well, it's called an experiment, or an accident, because I started off with hyperlapse here, and then at some point I must have pushed the wrong button and ended up with slow motion. So you'll see me going fairly fast, and then at some point it will slow down to almost a crawl, which makes it a lot easier for you to see how I did the mixing. And if you noticed, I actually did not clean my palette. I had still wet paint, so I decided to just go with the paint that I had left over to finish this painting, and that worked out fine. You know, this is a larger piece of glass, so some of the mixing is going on outside of what you can see, but the idea is, you know, if you can still use the paint, go for it. I do think I had to add some more colors along the way, maybe more white or something. And you'll notice that in all of these paintings so far, I have, oh, here's the slow motion, that I have only used yellow, red, and blue. And those are the primary colors. And the primary colors you can make a lot of different colors with. So far, you can see, if you go through all of the paintings that I've done here, they all have some kind of contrast, and there's no color really that I couldn't come up with that I needed per se. I've got a variety of reds, and the reds are, there's a pinky red and a more like a more warm orangey kind of red. I have a ultramarine blue as well as a phthalo, which an ultramarine is more on it's kind of more of a cooler blue. It's whereas phthalo is a warmer, almost greenish kind of blue, even though it's just blue. And then I also have Windsor blue, which Windsor is somewhere in between, in my opinion. It's in between kind of a warmer color and a cooler color. And I have two yellows. I have a more light yellow, like a cadmium light, and a more a warmer golden kind of yellow, not quite golden, but with those colors I can make a lot of different colors. I prefer, if I only have a few colors I can choose from, I would prefer a magenta red, because it tends to be more in the pinkish area, which if it's in the pinkish area, you can always add a little bit of yellow if you wanted more warm red, more I should say more true red. It's just easier that way. And I like, if I had to choose between blues, if I only had one choice of blue, I would take the warmer blue, because with the magenta red I can create a more cooler blue with that. And for the yellow, I prefer the darker, a little bit more medium color yellow as opposed to the lighter, because I feel like there's more possibilities. And with all of these I do use white to add some opaqueness to it. So in some cases you might need a yellow to be a bit more opaque, because it tends to be not light fast, so you can see through it. It's pretty transparent. It's hard to it's fairly hard to cover over another color. So in fact, sometimes what I'll do is I'll paint white over something and then go back over it with the yellow if the color underneath is darker. That way the yellow is not competing with the background, whatever you're painting it over. And as you see, this is still super slow motion, which it gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit about just the paint style. And in this case, when you take a stroke, and you want to make sure that you're getting all your color on there, sometimes just a little twist of your brush helps really nicely. And with mixing, I don't think I talked about that, but when you are mixing a color and you grab a little bit of the color you need, and you turn and you just find an empty spot and you add a little bit more of another color you need and you mix it together. The way I like to mix is I like to, just the way I'm using these strokes right here, I'm going, see how I just turned that brush? So using the brush on both sides is really helpful, because that way you're getting you're getting both sides of the brush into the color, and you're not hopefully not getting a color that you don't want because you've mixed it thoroughly. And that's kind of what I mean by making sure you use both sides of the brush. And when it's a round brush, of course, you use all sides of the brush. If it's a flat brush, then you're probably going to want to just use both sides. Here it's gone back to hyperlapse, so you'll see a little bit more action, and it goes really fast because now I'm whitening the entire background. It was kind of a snowy idea, and then I decided I didn't really like the coloring in the background, but I didn't want to lose it all, so I just went over it with some blue and left some of that color on the inside, and I think it came out okay. And just highlighting with more white so it feels cool, and that blue background really sets off the red bird. So yeah, that was the cardinal. Next up is the crocus. It's almost spring, y'all. Just a few days, or yeah, less than a week, I think. And I already saw a crocus, so I took a picture, and I decided this is going to be my next painting. So, or next flower painting, I should say, because I usually like to take one landscape, one flower. And I wanted to do a yellow background to go along with the yellow middle of the flower, and then so I made it's yellow, but I added a bit of blue to it, so it's kind of almost like more like an ochre color, and I also wanted contrast with the purple flower petals, I should say, and that makes it stand out more. Normally, though, I like to have cooler colors in the back and warmer colors in the front, because cooler colors tend to recede as it is, so it just brings a little bit more pushback or a little bit more depth into a painting. And if you pay attention to some paintings, you'll see that there is usually some kind of, if there's some depth in it, there's usually some kind of change in the colors, even if there's not like a crazy amount of other things that cause depth. And that's a whole like teaching of how to make things look like their space in your painting. And then in the end, I did end up changing. Yeah, I added blue because again, I felt like it needed just a bit more pushback to bring the flower forward. So that's what happened there. And yeah, that's I thought it worked out a lot better pushing it forward. And this one is a sunset. And I said National Harbor because that's the plan. As you can see, I started with a pre-painted board that I actually went over an old painting or sketch that was on there. And you'll see that I decided not to go with the there's like a big Ferris wheel type thing. Decided to leave it out and just go with the complexity really of the sky, because a sunset is not always like, it's always different. Number one. Number two, there's just so many colors happening that was enough to concentrate on at that time. So I decided to forget the other parts, and I was happy with just the sky as it was. And you see how I did the background first and then added the clouds and the land and the little strip of water on the bottom. And I think that ended up working out well. And you'll see there's some texture in the sky, and that comes from the last painting that I actually went over and changed. So it's kind of funny. But I loved how this came out. The sky made me really happy. I just kind of made it really smooth, and I didn't spend as much time with getting an exact over. Oh, that's Dutch. Oh my goodness, overgang, which just means fading into one color to the next. But I think it came out fine, and and certainly from any distance, it certainly looks like a proper sky. So I was very happy with this one. Here, I found that it was kind of on the crooked side, so I just stuck a ruler there to help me instead of like a piece of tape, because it might have peeled the paint off. So anyway, we have come to the end, and I hope you have enjoyed this. I want to thank you so much for watching, and please comment, like, and subscribe if you'd like to see more of these, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Bye-bye.